Hello, I'm Chef Daryl Shular. I'm here at the Shular Institute, and I'm doing a series of videos in conjunction with the Hospitality Education Foundation of Georgia and ProStart. We created a series of videos that's going to help educate our students while they're out resting and relaxing during this time of quarantine. So what I would like to do is just show some dishes that I like to do at home, some things that I remember growing up doing, simple foods that I can do at home, go in the refrigerator, pull out certain ingredients, and create nice meals for the whole entire family. So let's get into it. So the first thing we're gonna do is a nice sandwich dish, okay? That's something that we all have. We have bread, we have all these different ingredients, and so we're gonna create something really nice. And so what I have here is some chicken thighs. Now, chicken thighs, of course, very inexpensive. You can get them anywhere, especially this time of year. And so it's something that's really neat that brings out a whole lot of flavor and a lot of flexibility. So what I have here is the protein in between the parchment paper here and the saran wrap. And so what I want to do is just go ahead and flatten this chicken out. And the reason why we're pounding this chicken out is because we want to make sure that it's really thin. It's going on a sandwich, so we don't want to have anything too thick, and we want to cook make the cooking time a little bit shorter than normal. So we just want to pound it out. So now let's remove the saran wrap, plastic wrap. And as you can see, the chicken is nice and thin here, okay? Now we want to season it with a little bit of a Cajun spice. I like the Cajun spice because it brings out a little bit of a depth of flavor, gives you a little heat. You can use whatever seasoning you like in your cabinet, or you can do just a simple salt and pepper, maybe some fresh herbs, a little garlic, fresh olive oil, and you have a nice flavor profile that's there. The one thing we want to focus on is developing flavor. And so we get a nice even sear with the nice seasoning, and then we develop the caramelization and of course create that depth of flavor that we're looking for. We want to make sure we season on both sides. Okay. Now you can see some marbling of fat in the thigh there, and that's good because fat is flavor. So there's no need to go through and remove that fat. What we want to do is keep it there so that we can render it out, and that flavor from that fat carries over into the rest of the dish here. So we got a nice seasoning going on here, and this is ready to go for searing. So the most important thing with cooking, of course, is the proper seasoning. So if you can look here on the protein, it's evenly seasoned all the way around, and that's really important. You don't want to have blotches of seasoning because you'll bite into one piece and it's a little bland, then you bite into the other piece and it's a little bit overcooked or a little bit too salty there. So we want to make sure that it's evenly seasoned all the way across. Our pan is nice and hot, and so what we want to do now is go in with some oil, okay? All right, pan is nice and hot. Let's roll the oil around, okay? Then we want to go smooth side down into the pan. Let's check for a nice color. Not quite there yet. What we want to do is not rush this. We want to make sure that we get a nice sear, render out that flavor from the fat, and really get all that flavor just really marinating together, infusing the oil, and the oil infusing the flavor of the chicken there. It's going to give it a really nice depth of flavor, and it's going to really give it a nice color, a nice presentation. Always important to make sure we watch the heat. Make sure we look at the smoke there as well. If it's white, that means it's a little bit too high, a little bit too hot. So let's turn the temperature down. The food will tell you what to do. It'll give you signals, it'll give you signs on what you should be doing. And so you want to make sure that you're really monitoring every step of the process so that you get ultimate success as you're cooking at home there. And plus the flavors will just wake up everyone, and everyone will just stand around you in the kitchen watching you do your thing there. Beautiful. Now, because this is seared so thin, pounded so thin, this only takes maybe 3 to 5 minutes of cooking. But you need to make sure that you check it, make sure that it's done. You don't want to overcook it, but at the same time, you really want to make sure that you're not serving anything underdone there. So just really watch it. Try not to work the protein too much, but just watch the heat, watch the smoke, and you'll be in good shape. Okay, now next step, what we're gonna do is create a nice slaw. And so you think about slaw, you think about cabbage and carrots and different things that's really like full flavor and creamy. We wanna do something a little bit different, a little bit lighter, okay? So what we're gonna do is make a simple like vinaigrette, which has the flavor profile of barbecue, okay? Something really fun that you can do at home. So what we're gonna start off with some basic ingredients that you can use for any type of vinaigrette. Typically what you want is something that's going to really combine the flavors for you, okay? The acid and the oil, whether you're using the vinegar or what I'm using today, which is a little citrus, a little lemon. That flavor profile is really going to make this sandwich pop, but we really need to make sure that we bind it together really nice, okay? So what we're going to do is just add a little mustard, okay? Then we're going to go with about 2 ounces of barbecue sauce. And you can use whatever barbecue sauce you like. You can have one that you probably make your own at home, that's fine. Or you can have a favorite recipe or one that you buy from the store. It doesn't matter. The idea is to create deep flavor by combining these ingredients in the appropriate step there, okay? Now I'm gonna add just a little fresh garlic to it. Okay. We don't want to get this nice and fine. Fresh garlic is best. If you want to use like a garlic powder, you can. I would stay away from that. A nice clove really brings out a nice flavor for you. So I will go fresh first, and then if you need to use a powder garlic, then that's fine as well. Okay. So 1 clove of garlic. All right. Then we want to take our acid, which is the lemon here. Now, there's 3 parts to a lemon or all citrus that you want to be mindful of. You have the zest, you have the segments, and you have the juice. So what we want to do is we want to get a little bit of the zest. Half a lemon is all you really need. If you want to do the rest and save it for something else, maybe infuse the lemon zest in some sugar or maybe in oil or anything that's going to bring out some additional flavor that you may need, go ahead and do the whole entire zest and use it for something else. Okay. Now what we want to do is let's peel the lemon and get to the segments. You really want to make sure that you get all this white pith out the way. You don't want any of that pith inside of the vinaigrette. It's a little too bitter. Now you can save this. You can use this for, maybe you want to cook it in like a little simple syrup to use it for, you know, some type of candy, some type of an infusion. You can use this, okay? So the idea is total utilization, and especially at home where you really want to maximize your dollars, you definitely want to find something really innovative to use with this. Now the next thing to do is we want to remove the segments here, okay? Want to work over the bowl. Be careful of the seeds. And you want to get as many segments as you possibly can. Once again, you want to be careful because a little bit too much acid is way too much, so you want to be careful. So if you don't need it all, just save some of the segments for something else and you'll be in good shape, okay? You want to squeeze out the excess juice here, okay? And automatically you can start smelling some of the flavors here. All the flavors are starting to come together. You can smell the lemon zest, the fresh garlic. You can smell the notes from the seared chicken there. So you can just start picturing how the end result is going to be. So let's continue on. So we want to mix everything in together. If you see some of these segments that's a little large, you can go through and just kind of break them down a little bit. Normally with a little whisk, it will break down naturally. But if you see some large pieces of segments in there, just go ahead and just chop them down so that they're not too much for the palate when you're tasting your vinaigrette there. Okay. So we got a nice mixture there. Now what we want to do is add in a little bit of olive oil. You don't need too much olive oil. You just want a little bit to break it up, to give you a little bit more of a nice mouthfeel. You want to make sure that you get a nice luster and shine in your vinaigrette there. Okay, and if you can see it's nice and shiny, it transfers the flavors really well. Okay, and then you have the consistency that you need to coat the vegetables. I just want to add a little pinch of salt and a little cracked black pepper. Okay, so the vinaigrette is done, so we want to put this off to the side and we're going to work on the vegetables, okay? So now what we want to do is, let's start with the red onion here. So what we want to do is just go ahead and maybe split this down the middle here, okay? And the reason why I like to split it down the middle is because I can wrap this up and maybe use it for something else later on. You really normally don't use a whole onion like this. And for this application here, we only need maybe half of this. So let's go ahead and just pull this down. Pull some of these leaves off here. The outer sections, take it all the way down. Let's go ahead and trim it. Okay. Now we can always save this part for if you're at home and you have a compost bin or whatnot. You definitely want to try to save this and use it for some organic use. Okay. So try to save this for other use versus putting it into the trash can. Okay. And now what we're going to do is just do a nice little julienne of the onion here. Okay. Okay. We want to get it as thin as we possibly can. Okay. Now, there's a couple of things that you want to think about with, especially a red onion, because of that acidity level. You can always take this onion and soak it in some water to pull out some of that acidity. For what we're doing today, because we want that nice bold flavor to match with the sweetness of the barbecue and the mustard, we want to try to keep this onion in its fresh state here. So we're not going to soak it into water. We're just going to go ahead and put it into our bowl here. Okay. Now, if you don't have a red onion, you can use a yellow onion, whatever onion you will like, anything to really bring out the flavor of the slaw there, okay? Now we have a cucumber. And so what we're gonna do is just, let's go ahead and get a peel on that. Okay? And once again, you have all of these leaves here, all of these peels. You want to make sure you save this for compost, okay? So let's save this as well. All right. Now, the best thing for me, I like to just peel long sheets of cucumber off. So it takes it all the way down to the seeds, then I rotate it. Okay? Once again, you see the seeds and just rotate it. Real simple. Take it all the way down. Rotate it some more, and just go all the way around until you get total utilization of product. Okay? Now these seeds, once again, we can save this, maybe puree it up. It will be really nice for a nice, clean, refreshing drink. Maybe you infuse it in some water. So definitely make sure you save everything, okay? This is the time of year where we want to make sure that we're exercising total utilization, okay? All right, so now you have these nice, beautiful ribbons. It's going to go really nice on the sandwich there. So we want to take this and go directly into the bowl with it, okay? All right. Next, we're going to start with the carrot. Once again, let's peel it all the way down. Once again, stems for compost. Let's get a little white. Okay. And now what we want to do is do a little bit of a julienne cut there. Okay, nice and thin. Okay, once again, nice and thin. So whenever you're doing stick cuts, the most important thing is getting the slices nice and consistent there. So they're all nice and thin, okay? And even though the length is a little bit off because we want to use the whole entire carrot, there's no need to go through and try to shape it up perfect. What we're going to do is mix this in. This is survival mode, so we want everything that we make to be utilized. Total utilization is so important. So let's get it together, and then we want to go through and get it as thin as we possibly can there. And the reason why we want the carrot to be as thin as possible is because we want it to take on some flavor right away. Okay, if the carrots are really nice and thick, then it's going to take a little while for that flavor to really penetrate that carrot. Okay, so what we want to do is just get in there, get it as fine as you can. Okay. Okay, so we have the vegetables in here. Everything is nice and uniform, from the julienne red onions to the julienne carrots and the shaved cucumber. One of the things that we want to make sure that we focus on is using the right tool for the right job. So as you saw, I used the most utilized knife in any kitchen, especially with me, is the chef knife, okay? And it's something that should be very familiar to anyone, especially whenever you're doing knife skills, okay? You want to make sure that it's sharp, make sure that it's well balanced, and it's something that we get the job done very consistently there, okay? So another knife cut that I want to continue to introduce, and always, especially as young culinarians are entering into the industry, these fundamentals is something that you use throughout your career. From day one to now as a CMC, I use these techniques all the time. So what we're gonna do here with the basil is do what we call a ribbon cut or a chiffonade, okay? And so what we're gonna do is just take the leaves, and we're gonna roll them up really nice and tight, okay? And then what we wanna do is just get in really, really nice and tight and get nice ribbon cuts, as thin as we possibly can. And if you look, I'm using the very tip of my knife, okay, which is the sharpest part of the blade. The further down the knife you go, the thicker it is, and that's where you get to an issue with smashing up the basil and it begins to bruise it up. So we want to stay in that nice thin area where here, so we get a nice, clean, sharp slice there, okay? And you can see here that the basil is nice and uniform. You can smell the aroma of the basil, and as you're smelling, you can just tie in all those fragrances together, from the chicken to the barbecue vinaigrette to the slaw here. Everything's starting to come together, and that's what's really important whenever you're creating depth of flavor, okay? So we want to add just a little basil, okay? You can always add more, okay? We'll save the remainder of this for another application, okay? And now we are ready to mix these ingredients together. So what we want to do is add just a little of the vinaigrette in here, okay? Now this is a form of a salad, okay? And there's 3 different types of salads that's out there. Really there's 4. You have a fruit salad, you have a bound salad, which is typically like a chicken salad or a tuna salad, which is really bound with like mayo and different seasonings like celery and carrots and different things like that. Then you have a toss salad, which is similar to this, because this is where you take the vinaigrettes, you take all the ingredients, and you just toss it together and everything is ready for presentation. Then you have what they call a composure, bringing it together, different components. So that's more of a plated salad, to where you have a main focal point, and you have all the accoutrements on the plate as well. So just remember that as you're moving forward. And so what we're gonna do is just bring everything together. Just a light coating is all you really need, okay? And you want to try to bring all this together at the last minute, okay? Timing is really important. If you was to bind this together too soon, too early, it begins to break down. It becomes a little watery, because the salt that's in there will start to bring out some of the water from the cucumber and the onion. But if you wait too late, then it's a little bit too much texture there, okay? So timing is really important. So I typically like to make these no more than 5 minutes before I'm about to make the final presentation, which of course is the sandwich here. So we're gonna let this rest. This is ready to go. Nice color. Great combination of ingredients. And once again, this is something simple that you can do at home. Just going into your refrigerator, pulling out what you have in there, and not really creating anything excessive, just utilizing what you have to create something really fun and exciting. So we're gonna put this up and we're gonna continue on with our sandwich process. Okay, next we're just gonna go ahead and just take a tomato and let's get some thin slices. If you don't have tomatoes at home, maybe you have some peppers that you can put on there. If you don't have any peppers, anything like a pickle, anything to add that extra freshness to it is what you want. So nice thin slices. I love thin sliced tomatoes, nothing too thick because I really want flavor. I really want everything to marry together. And sometimes when you have something too thick, it tends to over dominate the flavor profile of the dish there. So we have our tomatoes nicely sliced. And once again, even slicing is a technique that you can work on at home. So even if you're slicing just a tomato or a cucumber or whatever it is, work on the technique, work on just executing everything as properly as possible, and then you'll see your skill set continue to evolve, okay? So we have the tomatoes there, and now we want to just go ahead and let's attend to the avocado here. So I like to go all the way around the seed, give it a little twist, okay? And then I like to just use the cup there and just give nice thin slices there, okay? If you're a little uncomfortable with doing this, you can lay it down onto the cutting board and you can just slice inside of the cup there, okay? It's easier to cut with the cup versus in your hand because the avocado is almost very similar to like butter. The more heat you apply to it, the more it's going to relax and become a little soft. So it's important to bring it directly out of the refrigerator. If it's too cold, you can always put it in some ice cold water to give you a little bit more firmness so that you're able to slice the avocado the appropriate way. Okay. If you're concerned about the seed, super simple, just a little pat, twist, and there you go. Okay. Just be very careful that you don't get your hand, but once again, you want to just make sure that you keep this nice and clean, as firm as possible. Okay. Now I did mention putting this inside some water, but it's a certain type of water that you want. You want an acidulated water, which means that you have a touch of acid in there, typically in the form of maybe a squeeze of lemon or a lime. Is preferably, and so since we have some lemon juice left over, we're going to add that to our water and keep our avocado in there until the time of final presentation. All right, so now we're to the main event or the main feature of the sandwich is always the bread. Okay, even though you have fillings and different type of ingredients, probably the most important piece is the type of bread that you select. So I like baguettes, I love loaves, especially when I'm feeding my family. It's a party of 5. I want to do it all together. Everyone gets consistency across the board. So a nice baguette like this is really important. Now, if you don't have a baguette, you can use a simple sliced bread. You can use any type of loaf of bread that you have at home. It'll still work just as fine, okay? So I love the crust, and so what we want to do is just go ahead and open this up, okay? So we use our serrated knife. Stay as centered as possible and just go all the way down. Let's go ahead and open this up. Okay, you have that beautiful soft interior there. Now, some people like to remove some of this this center bread there. Me, I love it all. Okay, because what it's going to do, it's going to absorb the additional flavor. So much flavor going on here. We don't want to lose it. We don't want it on our clothes. We don't want it on the plate. We want it in the bread and in our mouths. Okay, so talking about flavor, we want to build more flavor even in the bread. So what we're going to do is just take our half sheet pan here. Okay, and we're going to take a little of the olive oil. We want to soak that bread in really nice. Okay. Okay, really nice there. Okay, then we want to go with a pinch of salt, just a pinch of salt. Okay, nothing too much. You just want to really bring the flavor out and make that really, really pop. Okay, then we're going to go with a little of the cracked black pepper. Now, some of you may say, wow, he even seasoned his bread. Yes, I do. I want everything that has flavor, okay? So we have the flavor developing here. We want to go with now the cheese. We want to toast this off similar to like grilled cheese, okay? So even if you're at home, you have sliced bread, you can take 2 pieces of bread, your cheese, and you can brown it just like you're doing a cheese sandwich, okay? And then you can open it up and put your filling on the inside. So what we're going to do here is lay our cheese, and I chose a Monster. You can use any type of cheese you want. You can use a white cheddar, a nice aged cheddar. You can use, you know, a Havarti or provolone, anything that's going to give you a nice melt. Okay, that's what we want. Okay, so we just put cheese on one side, but we want both sides of the bread toasted. So we're going to go into a 350-degree oven for about 5 minutes, or until both the cheese is melted and we have a nice golden brown. All right, so let's check on the toast here. Beautiful. So as you can see, the cheese is really nice and brown, nice melt on that, and then you have a nice infusion of that olive oil there, which really shows a nice toast. So when you bite into this, you get that nice crunch on the outside, but then you have a nice texture on the inside as well, okay? So this method is what I use, even if I'm making like a crouton or a crostini. I always saturate that bread with a nice amount of fat, whether it's butter or olive oil. It gives a nice texture, something really light and airy, okay? So let's go ahead and we'll build the sandwich. Okay. So now what we want to do is let's go ahead and we can add on our chicken. Now, if you don't have chicken, you can use, maybe this is a piece of salmon you have in the kitchen. Maybe you have some turkey meat, some deli meat. You can do the same thing with this. Any type of protein that you like will work well for this process right here. So next we want to take the avocado. We have our avocado. We'll go with a little slice of tomato. Okay. Then I like to hit it with just a little bit more olive oil. Okay. Now we're going to go with the slaw next. And as you can see, all the flavors really come together really nice there, okay? And then the last thing I like to do is just a little bit more of the vinaigrette right across the top, just to give me a little bit more flavor of that vinaigrette and that barbecue mustard flavor there, okay? So now we have it nice and beautiful. Go with the top, you hit that nice crunch, which is beautiful, okay? And then we start portioning it out. Okay. And the sound is so beautiful. I love the crisp crunch, which tells me all the way through you're gonna have that nice balance, that nice contrast of flavor, all those textures coming along well. Because we're serving a family, we wanna make sure we serve them as nice as we would in our own establishment. So we lay it onto a nice platter, okay? This is a time where you want to pull out your favorite chips. Maybe you made your own chips. Maybe you have a nice, you know, cold salad you would like to add to it, or whatever it may be. This is a time where you bring in all your fun summer, you know, dishes that you like, and it go really well with this right here. So this is a nice toasted baguette sandwich with the blackened chicken, and you have the cucumber slaw with avocado and tomato. Something great for the fun, for at home, for your family, and it gives you an opportunity to really showcase your culinary skills. Hope you enjoy this dish.